In order to address this issue, let us go into the detailed discussion of the unmoved heart in a crucial dialogue in the book of Mencius. Mencius is concerned with the attainment of an attitude of inner peace, serene courage, and equanimity in the face of the anxiety. His disciple Gong Sun Chou asks him if he could maintain his unmoved heart if he were suddenly elevated to high office in a state of qi. In that position, he would be facing all the anxieties, perils, and spiritual temptations. Mencius replies that he had already attained an unmoved heart by the age of 40. He points out that his antagonist Gaozi had also attained this state. Some men can achieve a posture of indifference to the vicissitudes of the outer world. They achieve this simply by cultivating within themselves a constant disposition of physical courage. It is in connection with this disposition that the term qi is first introduced as a crucial category alongside nature, 性, and heart, 心. Meng Shishe was one of the experts of physical valor. He had maintained his courage by, quote, holding fast to his qi, unquote. Courage belongs to qi because it is fundamentally an emotional disposition. Emotional dispositions belong to the category of qi as a kind of psychophysical energy or substance. However, Mencius points out the narrow limitations of an unmoved heart. Courage may serve any ends, and since it simply belongs to the realm of the passions and emotions, it may in fact become subservient to unworthy purposes. Courage may serve ignoble purposes. The man of moral courage is courageous only when he is right. Confucius is quoted as saying, quote, if in looking within one finds oneself to be in the wrong, then even though one's adversary be a coarsely clad commoner, should we not tremble with fear? If on looking within one finds that one is right, one should move forward against men in the thousands, unquote. An unmoved heart can be achieved by cultivating the qi of courage, but this must be based on unswerving righteousness. Righteousness functions to counteract the disordering principle within the human organism. The qi is intimately related to the heart. It is a kind of energy which circulates throughout the body and its organs. It embraces all vitalities associated with the emotions, the passions, the appetites, and the desires. The constantly circulating and ever-changing passions, emotions, and appetites are the arena in which the disorders and the perversions of the man, of the human person, make themselves manifest within the organism. It is in effect the turbulence and disorders of the qi which directly obstruct the growth of the shoots of goodness in the human heart. Mencius does not regard the vital energy of the qi in itself as the cause of moral evil. Instead, it is associated with courage. Courage is in itself good. When he speaks of the disorders of the qi, he speaks not of deficiency of qi. We can see that when qi is viewed from the cosmic perspective, it may well be a mysterious vital substance or energy which binds the individual to the ultimate source of being. It is the case in Mencius as well as in Zhuangzi. In the book of Zhuangzi, Yan Hui is advised by Confucius that in making his mystical ascent, he should listen not with his heart, but with his qi. Qi is empty. It unites all things to the Tao. Mencius might not have agreed with Zhuangzi in this connection, but he would not object to the exalted view of the qi when viewed from a cosmic perspective. When the qi fills the body, all the senses and physical organs, with all their affective and perceptive properties, function precisely as they should within their proper domains. When all parts of the organism are full of qi, there is a harmonious and just balance among them. When qi drains out of the body and becomes depleted, imbalances occur. This relates to imbalances and disorders in the emotions and the passions. In the passage of the Zhuangzi, we find it stated that, quote, if the qi that is stored up in a man becomes dispersed, then he suffers a deficiency. If it ascends and does not descend, it causes him to be constantly irritable. If it descends and does not ascend, it causes him to be chronically forgetful. If it neither ascends nor descends, but gathers in the middle of the body, in the region of the heart, he becomes ill, end quote. Well, in the Huainanzi, we find the following passage, quote, if the blood qi can be concentrated in the 5 organs without drifting away, then the chest and stomach can be replenished and the lustful desires diminish. When the chest and stomach are full and desires are diminished, the ears and eyes are clear and the sense of hearing and sight are penetrating. We call this clarity. The 5 organs are then subject to the heart and there is no deviation. The will dominates and behavior does not go astray. When the will dominates and behavior does not go astray, the spirit flourishes and the qi does not dissipate, end quote. This corresponds exactly to Mencius' assertion that, quote, the will commands the qi, while the qi fills the body, end quote. The men of mere physical courage try to maintain their qi by cultivating a dominant emotional disposition, which can perhaps control certain forms of depletion or loss of qi through fear. In the Zhuangzi's passage we quoted a moment ago, King Huan of Qi has been transfixed with fear after seeing a ghost. If he had maintained a steadfast courage, he might have avoided the illness resulting from his loss of qi. Connected with the qi, there are many other irrational passions. Physical courage cannot control them. They overwhelm physical courage. Physical courage is also an organically based emotion. When Mencius compares his own unmoved heart to that of his rival Gaozi, he points out that both he and Gaozi agree that, quote, what is not to be gotten from the heart is not to be sought in the qi, unquote. The spiritual basis of the unmoved heart should rest on something much more solid than anything derived from the emotions or passions. The qi is very much affected by its interaction with the outer world. This interaction occurs in the realm of the senses, which provide men with their channels of communication with the outer world. Gong Duzi asks, quote, though men are equally human, why are some great men and some small men, unquote? The answer is, quote, that the organs of hearing and thinking are unable to think and can be misled by outer things. The organ of the heart or mind can think. If it thinks, it will obtain the right view. If it does not think, it will not obtain it, unquote. It is not the senses themselves that are the locus of evil. The senses as such are part of that nature which we do indeed share with the animals. It is natural for the palate to love good tastes, the ear to love good sounds, and the eyes beautiful sights. Evil somehow arises in the area of interaction between the qi and senses and objects of outer world. Something in the nature of the qi and senses as they operate within the human being leads them to become fixated on and upset with or excessively repelled by various aspects of outer world. In human beings, the unthinking senses can trigger either vast excesses of desire or repulsion which upset the balance of the emotions and dissipate man's vital qi. Where the vital qi is not drained off by these external obsessions, then the vital qi is maintained in balance. While the senses are the channels of communication with our outer world, it is not the case that the only forms of evil temptation in the outer world are excessive sensual delights. The lust for power, fame, and worldly honor can also be communicated through the senses. We can find lots of discussion of the capacity of the heart or mind as the organ of thinking and the will of the heart or mind to think, or the absence of the will to think. And here we see two dimensions of the heart or mind. The spontaneous tendency toward goodness is embedded in an unreflective level of the heart. There's also deliberate goal-oriented judgment and conscious decision which dwells in the thought and will of heart. In concrete situations, we must make a choice between good and evil. This is a deliberate act of the intentional will. It is not the heart as the spontaneous vehicle of the good nature that brings order to the senses and harmony and replenishment to the qi. Rather, it is the heart as the intentional organ of willing and thinking. Mencius asserts that it is, quote, the will which rules over the qi, unquote. The Han commentator Zhao Qi says that, quote, will is what the mind intends and consciously considers, unquote. In the book of Guanzi, there is a passage which reads, quote, when our hearts are well ordered, our senses are also well ordered. When our hearts are at rest, then our senses are also at rest. What orders them is the heart or mind. What sets them at rest is the heart or mind. The heart thus contains another heart. Within the heart, there is another heart, unquote. This inner intentional heart ultimately determines whether the natural heart of goodness will be retained, 存心, or lost, 放心. Mencius does not say which level of the heart is the lower and which level of the heart is the higher. The major task of the conscious willing heart is to maintain contact with the inertial tendency toward goodness that is embedded in the spontaneous level of the heart. This is pretty close to Mencius' view of the heart. This contact is in fact easily lost when the conscious mind confronts the overwhelming attractions and repulsions, perils and lures of the outer world. The conscious level of man's mind can, by its unceasingly renewed moral effort, lead most humans to salvation. The sage king, by virtue of some mysterious inner grace, never loses contact with his true heart. It is the trajectory of his good nature with its source in the four beginnings that determines the entire course of his life without diversions or obstructions. He never departs from the norm and lives in the world without facing the choice between good and evil. The sages live in a world of harmony with the universe on every level of their being. Their conscious hearts are always at one with their spontaneous hearts. Their senses are under the complete control of their hearts. The fully nourished vital energies of qi are fully in balance within the body and in harmony with the cosmic qi. Such sages are beyond the need for the indeterminate choice between good and evil. The ultimate value is good itself, not freedom to seek the good. Mencius' concern is with the majority of struggling mankind, and not with ideal sages. He places much stress on the conscious level of heart or mind. It is only by the unceasing concrete acts of the moral will that the senses can be controlled and the qi can be nourished. The senses and the qi can be ultimately controlled only by the determination to act rightly. To use Mencius' wording, it is to, quote, accumulate righteousness, unquote, in all the complex circumstances of life. If a man concentrates his whole mind on acting rightly, he will have found the true method of achieving an unmoved heart. He will be in full control of his appetites, emotions, and passions. He will constantly nourish his qi. The qi can become a flood-like Qi. This flood-like Qi becomes a vital energy in the feedback process. The vital energy nourishes and strengthens the innate propensity to goodness. Goodness becomes embedded in character. A man who can, quote, realize all the potentialities of the heart, unquote, 尽心, will achieve the unmoved heart. He will be a man capable of saving the whole world. In contrast, Gaozi states that, quote, what one does not obtain in words, he does not seek in his heart, unquote. Gaozi does not believe in any inner propensity toward goodness. He does not believe in achieving a moved heart by continuous effort to accumulate acts of righteousness. He thinks that man's constant acts of self-scrutiny may in fact be incompatible with the achievement of inner equanimity. For Gaozi, a true code of behavior is made up of the external rules. The external rules are made up of words. He simply submits to the rules without worrying about the relations of these external rules to internal state of heart. He realizes that peace and order must be maintained in the society by the normative rules. The maintenance of normative rules requires no subjective moral involvement. He is detached from his turbulent emotional life and the painful stresses of a sense of inner moral responsibility. Measure stresses that he also understands words. He can understand both the difference between false and true doctrine and the states of mind which are reflected in such doctrines. He understands that the words arise out of the deeper moral tendencies embedded in the heart. Through words, he can read the heart. The realization of the true way cannot come simply by submission to external rules embedded in language. It arises out of a commitment of the will to do the right. This commitment enables a man to achieve a moved heart. He is also to take control of his own emotional life, build a true relationship to the social world out there, and understand what is true and false in the words of others. Mencius emphasizes the moral will more than anything else. The only thing which can be called good without qualification is the good will. Moral action involves knowledge. Even the unreflective heart has a kind of intuitive power of judgment. This is the beginning of true moral knowledge. Quote, what a man is able to do without learning is his true ability. What he is able to know without reflection is his true intuitive knowledge. Unquote. However, when he speaks of the function of the heart as thinking, he is not referring to this intuitive knowledge, but to the deliberate level of the mind. Quote, if one thinks a deliberate act, one obtains it. If one does not think, one does not obtain it. Unquote. The potentialities of intuitive mind can be realized in most men only by deliberate decisions to do the right in all concrete situations, and by a willingness to learn whatever is required to make a proper moral judgment. Only a human of this type can himself master the disorders of his own qi and set free his own inherent capacities. Otherwise, the inherent intuitive capacity remains in most men utterly passive. It will be completely vulnerable to all the disordering forces of both the external environment and the internal environment of depleted and imbalanced qi. Knowledge and thought are constantly linked to the moral acts of the individual. The accumulation of acts of righteousness requires the acquisition of empirical knowledge. Moral judgments of noble men do not involve only the encounters of personal life, but the larger affairs of society as a whole.